Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast interview. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of automotive retail, specifically today on fixed ops, and how AI is changing the game to help dealers fill gaps in their service process, retention, and to generate more opportunities in fixed operations. In order to accomplish this task of helping you, the dealer community, I've asked Dan Mcallister, he's the Chief Revenue Officer at BLiNKAI, to join me. Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Really looking forward to it.
So Dan, let's just start very quickly at the top. You have been in the automotive industry for a while, and you saw an opportunity to join BLiNKAI as a great next step for your career. What did you see in this particular company that excited you to say, okay, this is where I want to plant my stake in the ground and make an impact for dealers?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, I've been really interested in AI and what its impact, was and is on the automotive industry. I sought out and talked to a bunch of CEOs of some AI companies and some dealers. And what I loved about what BLiNKAI was bringing was that they really reached out and connected with the customer at whatever level they're coming in, whether they're coming in through the web, they're calling in on the phones, or there's an outreach need because of declined service or whatever information that DMS needs to be mined, and then reached out to the customer. And the way they do it is sort of I like to look at it as it's like the intelligence that is in between all of the different tech layers of a dealership, now really harnessing that data to be able to create results.
All right, so let's break it out, because one of the things that we're doing in preparation for the Modern Retailing Conference coming up just in a few days in Palm Beach is to help dealers understand the differences, the strengths and weaknesses, almost like a SWOT analysis for the different AI products, especially those who are doing voice, email, and texting for dealers both in fixed ops and variable ops. So one of the things that I loved about your product is that it can communicate via voice, email, and text. And the first thing that jumped out was the fact that you have the ability to take in telematics data and dedupe that, clean it, normalize it, and then identify the dealer's customers. And the dealer then can choose automatically which customers, which needs, which alerts they want to use as a campaign outreach. This, to me, is solving a huge manual process. I know, Toyota has, for example, a pretty big telematics stream. Dealers would get these lists and give them to their BDC, and it seemed like kind of like a manual process. Are dealers starting to understand that the stream of data from telematics is a huge revenue opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what you find is when you look at the base level of conversion before and after, it really jumps off the page. So what's really happening when you apply manual process to it is you lose the timing. Everything is about timing with these alerts. So when the alert comes in, we are generally responding within the hour to send out an email or a text or both. And we do it in a sequence of 3 different texts and or emails over 3 different days or 3 consecutive days. And what we see is a very high, in the 40 to 60% range conversion of those unique vehicles coming into service. And so the revenue generating off that jumps off the page. And we're seeing, especially with Toyota, Lexus, and a few other OEMs, we're seeing a huge uptick in our sales for telematics.
I'm just going to tell a personal story, because tomorrow I'm taking my Mercedes for service here in the Peachtree City area. We recently purchased a home here, and I don't know where the nearest Mercedes-Benz dealer is, but for months, my service alerts on the Mercedes and it says, hey, do you want to speak with somebody? Now, my experience in automotive is like, I'm not sure if I say yes, you want someone to talk to you right now. I don't know what my schedule is. I'm driving. I don't know where the closest dealer is, so I don't know who I'm talking with. And so I've just been, you want to talk to someone? Do you want to schedule an appointment? I'm like, no, 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 no. But if I would have received a text, I would have definitely scheduled it because that was just only going on in the car when I was driving, when I'm least likely to book any appointment because my schedule's kind of complicated. You send me a text, I'm going to see that text later in the day. I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to say, okay, let's schedule. And I want to be very specific because there's some AI tools that's job is just to queue up people, get their information, to have someone call them back to book an appointment. If you're sending out a text like, hey, they're B level service, I have to get a B service, B5. So if I get a text, hey, I see your B5 service light went on, would you like to schedule? Is BLiNKAI actually showing available times to the consumer and booking that in the DMS, or is it just taking a wish list and someone's going to call them back?
No, it's we are fully integrated with virtually all DMS products, as well as even shop maintenance like Xtime and MyKarma. And so we don't require anyone to change the stack that they have. We integrate in with their current processes and actually book that with the actual op code of the alert, so that the dealer all the way down through. So what's really good about it is it's making the service advisors more efficient. They don't have to ask questions. We're not asking strange questions to the customer about what their VIN is and what we should already know. That's information we should already know. So that just seamlessly gets booked inside of whatever DMS that they have, and there's really no human touch from that perspective.
Okay, Dan, there is some misinformation or just opaqueness. So I'm going to ask a direct question. I didn't prep this question, but there are some people who are saying, Brian, what people aren't telling you that AI scheduled appointments don't show to the degree of a person-to-person booking. Now, that doesn't actually make logical sense to me, but I want to just throw it out there. Of the consumers who are booking through BLiNKAI, do you track the show rate?
We
And
do.
what would you say that normal range is?
We're at an over 90% show rate. Our appointments are strong. We measure it, and it's something that I think I mentioned something to you earlier as we were discussing this podcast. We're really not. We really want to measure. Our KPIs are all around performance of actual showed appointments, what the increased appointments are, and what my revenue lift is because of our service. So in order to be able to do that, we have to be able to look at and tie down not only what was scheduled, but who showed up. So we actually measure ROs tied to our appointments.
All right, let's flip the script a little bit. Voice, text, and email. It's your communication stream. Obviously, if you're getting telematics data, that could apply also to recall, right? So recall data that comes in, that can be automated depending on what recalls the dealer is equipped to service. What about inbound phone calls? This is an important one because as we've been talking to dealers, some of the complaints in the early voice AI or digital voice assistant tools were having problems with Spanish speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like decent for English, but when Spanish speakers, come in. So if a dealer wants BLiNK to handle an inbound phone call, are most dealers using it as the first point or as an overflow? What would you tell me on what dealers are feeling comfortable with your platform in regards to inbound voice calls?
So I would tell you, we're very passionate about this. We want to be first line. We feel in order to provide the most value to the dealer, we need to be able to efficiently and effectively answer phone calls and handle the task. So we want to take the burden of the dealership, some of the hard things. And listen, dealerships don't do a great job with their phones. They just don't.
We know that.
The
Yes.
data will show that. So we want to take that burden off and make sure every call is answered. And in fixed ops, 70% of calls coming in are to schedule, to check a status, or to change an appointment. And they also may want to talk to someone. We give them a way to exit out to a live person at any given time, but we're trying to fulfill as much of those calls as we can automatically, and then give an elegant way for a live person to follow up with those items, because we can't handle everything, for those items that can't be handled through an automation or an AI agent.
So let's go through that. BLiNKAI grabs the call. The majority of the calls BLiNK is going to be able to handle and book or resolve to the customer's satisfaction. And then if BLiNK is feeling like, no, I'm stuck, I don't know the answer, how is that escalated then? For what are the dealers doing? Are you forwarding that call to a hunt group in the service BDC or service advisors? How does that work today?
So generally in onboarding, we will determine dealer by dealer where they want those, I will call troubled calls, to go. Now, troubled calls come in two different kind of flavors. One is we measure sentiment all the way through the call. So we're measuring sentiment. What's happening is, are we succeeding? Are we failing? What's happening? And we measure that. And based on what our score is, we will send that call to whoever the dealer has told us to send that to. And along the call, if sometimes if there's a misunderstanding, we can't get out of it what we want, we will proactively say, would you like to talk to a live agent or a service agent? And so that's been working extremely well. And of course, because it's AI, it's getting better and better and better, as it learns and as we get more and more phone calls in.
Great. Now, one of the things I was thinking about telematics, just about my recent booking experience, because I found that Mercedes-Benz of Atlanta South is my closest dealership. When I called, a person eventually answered. And one of the things that was interesting is when I used their online service scheduler and I put in my VIN, it thought my car had 61,000 miles. And this is why I'm thinking about telematics. And I knew there was something that was very relevant to me. We don't drive much in our family. I'm on the plane a lot. We travel a lot. But this 2021 Mercedes-Benz vehicle has 34,000 miles, right? So effectively 5 years later, so you can see. But I bet most systems are using some average, algorithm to figure it out. So when I put in my VIN, they said, 61,000. I don't know where they got the number from, but I guess it was a projection, which of course was way off. And that's why I think this telematics data is going to be so important. I had a Corvette. I recently sold it, but after 4 years, it had 3,200 miles. And I think dealers are sending out offers, warnings, you miss this, based on a schedule, but not on real data. So I just thought that since you can handle the telematics data, you can really provide relevant offers instead of estimation. Does that align with what you're thinking, Dan?
100%. And I think we're in this shift in the industry from being reactive to proactive as well.
Yeah.
So this data, and what I love about telematics data is it isn't muddied yet. It's really coming right out of the car. It's reading exactly what's happening, as opposed to being ingested into multiple data sets and, mismanaged in some cases. I love getting that raw data because it allows us to be very proactive. And I think you'll see over the next few years, telematics becoming instead of that reaction. It's going to be telling you, what you should be doing in advance, or even certain wear and tear that's happening inside of the vehicle. It's reading that information and being helpful to the consumer and then to the dealer, in getting that to be more of a real time experience as opposed to someone reacting to something happening.
I agree. I could go on telematics, but I wish the cars were and the tools were using this data more often. Let's talk about one other very hot button when it comes to AI. And I just bring this up because we're talking to dealers right now as we're doing this market research report on all the tools that are helping dealers with their inbound calls or messaging of customers in sales and service. And it seems that some dealers who got in early had a bad taste. And so, when I look back, the early, say, voice assistant platforms, Brook, Stella, even Car Wars Kerry, and at that time, we really weren't talking about large language models. We weren't talking about training the AI. Today, I'm hearing more AI products saying, look, give us your brand promise, give us your documents for service process, give us, you know, almost like your service advisor training manual will ingest this to help tweak our communication style or recognize, something that you've branded. Where are you today in answering this question? How can you train BLiNKAI AI to be more consistent with our brand, our style? We're a luxury dealership. I think of like Ray Katina in New Jersey. Everything about their message and market is exceeding, a customer's expectation. So where are you with enabling dealers to feed individual policy, framework, communication documents so that BLiNK is more aligned with their process?
Yeah, so in our onboarding process, I mean, this is a big part of it, especially with our voice customers, really understanding what the tone and the voice of the dealership is in their marketplace. We take a little bit different approach to our AI. We actually announce upfront that we are a virtual agent. We do not hide behind it. We are very obvious about it, and we also find that brings everyone's sort of level down. People understand who they're dealing with, and we're able to accomplish the tasks that we're trying to do along the way. Now, of course, we don't try to have dealers reinvent their process to ours. We always try to mimic whatever their process is, and our AI is learning on that as we set them up and get ready for live. But we're able to onboard our voice clients very very quickly. Within a couple weeks, you're going live and we're answering, partly because of our deep integrations with all of their systems. So
Right.
we have all the data and we're able to use that more in a utilitarian way than and for fixed ops you would think that, right? Maybe
Sure.
the front of the house is slightly different. There's a slightly different tone that we're gonna have to learn more, have our AI agent learn more about. But we don't hide behind the fact that we're an AI agent. We think that's the best practice going forward.
I agree as well. I get a lot of telemarketing calls, and it's like, hey, Brian, I just want to let you know about your loan approval. And, the first time you get that call, you're like, boy, this is a pretty aggressive salesperson. Then you realize
It's not real.
it's just an AI prompt. Let's talk about one other thing. We've talked about your voice handling and the quality of the bookings. We've talked about the telematics and giving near real-time outreach to people who've just been in their car and saw a service light or a warning light. Let's talk about campaigning, because I believe dealers who are spending a lot of money on direct mail are wasting a great amount, because that data could be based off of DMS data that's outdated. It could be based on mileage that is just projected, not actual. In my case, the stores always get it wrong. But there's amazing benefits of having a single platform that can send text, send emails, or handle voice calls. So when a dealer says, how can you help me with my ongoing life cycle kind of service marketing? Do you offer campaigning that a dealer can set up, like lapse service, decline service, recalls? Is this part of a life cycle campaign that can be set up and run? Let's talk a little bit about campaigning.
Yeah, it's part of our core set of products that we generally talk with a dealer about. And you hit the nail on the head. There's gold in the data that is in their systems. And so, if you take decline service as an example, some DMSs like CDK have an actual opcode that's decline service. That's a bit easier to drive because it's already there. Most don't, quite honestly, and so we train fixed ops to actually in the notes field just write what the decline service was, and our AI agents trained to be looking at that at those notes,
Looking at those notes, yeah.
right? So that we can, on a timely basis, send out a communication to the customer based around that decline service. And then we work on onboarding with our dealers on what does that timing look like by RO. So brakes might be 2 months later. Tires, maybe they just barely passed inspection. If you're in a state that requires inspection, that's another one that we'll time up with them. So our customer success representatives, they'll spend a lot of time on setting those parameters up as we go out for decline service. Then there's as vehicles are coming off of warranty, what does your outreach look for that 3 to 7 year old vehicle that defects usually to a third party? How do you keep them engaged in your service? So we have campaigns that'll go out. Any kind of recall data that we're given, we can send outbound campaigns. And again, it's the same thing. It's sent text or email, and you can schedule appointments right out of those texts or emails. And more importantly, if you even started that and then you decided something happened, you couldn't finish the session, and you called back in, we would know that you tried, and we would actually say, I see that you tried to book something online.
That's great.
Are you calling in about that? Just making it, again, more personal and more understanding of what the situation is.
And the airlines do that. When I call, say, Delta or United, and it would say, "Oh, we see that you were, attempting to book or change your flight," and I was like, "Wow, that's cool. That's what I was trying to do." Dan, I want to thank you for leaning in and being very specific and precise with your answers, because dealers are looking for ways to fill gaps in their service process. And the fact that you have a multi-channel communication platform running off the same playbook, ingesting data from their DMS, or as some dealers move to CDPs, right, wherever that data can be found with the opcodes and the other things. This is really an important conversation that dealers have to have with their fixed ops director. How many opportunities are we missing because in peak hours we're not answering the phone, or we just don't have enough resources for declined services and recalls and telematics? So, Dan, if a dealer wanted to get a demo, talk to you a little bit more. What's the best website for them to go to?
It is BLiNKAI.com.
Well, that's really, really easy. And Dan, I also just want to remind dealers that the BLiNKAI team will be at the Modern Retailing Conference. That's November 16th, 17th, 18th in Palm Beach. We've expanded the number of hotels to accommodate all the dealers who are attending. This is the who's who in automotive AI, automotive data management, data hygiene, and retail tech. The Modern Retailing Conference's theme is to help dealers build the right tech stack to meet the needs of their business, be more efficient, generate more revenue opportunities, and BLiNKAI fits right in, checks all those boxes. So, Dan, I want to thank you and your management team for supporting dealer education, being a sponsor. I'm sure you're going to be awful busy at the show. Dan, if a dealer wanted to email you directly because they fell in love with you on this podcast, what's the best email address for you?
Again, pretty simple. DMcAllister@BlinkAI.com.
Couldn't be any easier. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening in. I want to encourage you, get your tickets for MRC, come on out and actually see live dealer accounts, look at the KPIs, look at the management reports, listen to how calls are being handled. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then more importantly, I think it will show you how much revenue you're leaving on the table. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you listen to all the podcast interviews rolling up to the Modern Retailing Conference. And don't forget to sign up for my LinkedIn newsletter, where every week I'm helping dealers move forward with introductions to new concepts, new technology, new vendor partners to help them sell more cars and service in a digital age. You can get that newsletter from my LinkedIn profile. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone, for listening in, and I'll see you next time on another podcast interview.